We will reconvene with our regular meeting, March 13th, 2012. Roll call, please.
The record will reflect that all members of council are present.
Is there a closed session report?
There's no closed session report this evening.
Thank you. We will have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Selich and followed by an invocation by Reverend Robert Jordan Ross of Newport Universalist Society.
Please follow me in the salute to our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great God of our lives, we often think of you with all the excitement of children at a gift-sharing party. The overabundance of what we receive from you is truly thrilling. As we read in our newspapers of the sordid and corrupt crimes in so many city governments, we give you thanks that so little of this has touched our own. We pray that your blessings of honor, probity, and courage will remain with our leaders. As we learn of the disasters to life and limb that plague so many parts of this world, we thank you that we have had so little of these here, and pray that you will continue to give our leaders the wisdom to plan for the evil day when earthquakes or other problems will come, that few of our citizens might suffer badly from them. As we discover the grim and unfriendly ways that so many people live together in desperation with one another, we rejoice in the friendliness and goodwill that we find here, and pray that you will continue to grace our spirits with an outgoing friendliness and consideration that will spread its goodness over us all. We pray then that you will give these men and women in whom we place our trust such grace that they will always be able to discern what works of theirs will build this fine spirit, and continue in your will to place and keep such things amongst us. Amen.
Thank you. And now we will have a presentation from the Rotary Club of Newport Beach. Bill Hossfeld is the president, and it is on Arbor Day.
I'm going to put this right here. I don't know. Oh, great. Thank you. Good evening. Another beautiful day in paradise. And that's what I do to open up every Rotary meeting every week, better known as Newport Beach. What a great place and what a great job you guys are doing and have been for many years. My name is Bill Hossfeld, the president of the Rotary Club of Newport-Balboa. And we have been serving this community since May of 1939 when we were founded. We met at White's Cafe, better known as the Village Inn. I've known many of you for a long time. We're members of your family, including Judge Gardner. He spoke to many groups that I belonged to over the years. It's been he's really been missed. Under our club's leadership, our past president, Tom Riley, whom many of you knew as our Orange County supervisor, started the community service program in March of 1969 by giving seedlings, like you're receiving this evening, to all the third graders within the public and private schools located within the Newport Mesa Unified School District. This is to celebrate Arbor Day, which is celebrated in California on March 7th, which is the birthday of California's famous arborist, Luther Burbank. And if you've ever had an opportunity, visit his home in Santa Rosa. It's a wonderful place. This year we are passing out two different trees, the golden trumpet tree, which will be going to all the students in Newport, and then also in some other, which you're receiving tonight. And because of the numbers, we're also passing out the orchid tree in certain parts of Costa Mesa. As you can see, we've been doing this for 43 years, and we will be visiting 21 public elementary schools and 14 private schools with third graders that will total some 2,175 students, plus their teachers, teacher aides, school administrators, where the total seedlings distributed will exceed 2,520 trees this year. We also dedicated a tree at East Bluff Elementary during Flag Deck on March 7th, and that is alternated between a school in Newport one year, Costa Mesa the next, within the public schools. If you do the math, for the past, I think it came about 2 years ago, we've exceeded 100,000 seedlings. Those trees have matured, or many of those trees have matured, and it's providing joy, shelter to nature's creatures, and purifying the air we breathe. We thank you for your dedication, service, and encouragement that you have provided Rotary since we were founded in 1939. That is extended to all our members and our current that have or currently are living in Newport Beach, including myself, where I've been part of the Orange Coast since 1951 and a resident here in Newport well over 40 years. Rotary's motto is service above self, which I hope our club has made a difference, not only locally, but around the world. And I thank you this evening, and we hope these trees will help just make the city even more beautiful than it is already. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. A couple of years ago, I can't remember what kind of tree it was, but mine's now about 8 feet tall, and I have to repot it again. So it's thriving.
Great. Well, thank you very much, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much. We have a second presentation. This is the National Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation. And this is with Steve Creech, who's the Vice President of the Wyland Foundation.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Thank you for having us here today and for taking the Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation on behalf of the Wyland Foundation and our partners. We commend the City of Newport Beach's efforts to promote the environment and get their residents engaged in issues about water conservation. Most people who have read the news recently know that the nation's facing close to $1 trillion in water infrastructure improvements over the next 25 years. On top of that, our nation's facing a host of issues relating to water availability. The Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation is a way of engaging cities in a friendly competition to see who can be the most water-wise. One of the things that we do with the Wyland Foundation is we provide incentives for residents to make online pledges to learn about water conservation and make a commitment. This year, we've put together about $50,000 in prizes for cities all around the country just for residents who make pledges and commitments to save water at home and learn about the value of protecting this precious resource. We're currently working with the EPA, with the Office of Water, the U.S. Forest Service, NOAA, and WaterSense partners, including Kohler, also Rainbird, Waterpick. Quite simply, residents can go online to mywaterpledge.com, take a series of pledges, and they're automatically competing on behalf of their city. They'll be able to see in real time how their city is faring vis-a-vis other cities in the competition. So it's an opportunity not only to learn about water conservation, but to also have some fun along the way, which is really important when we're engaging people about the environment and conservation. I have other details about the program. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I just think there's an event coming up. Is it at the Moose Center, or the date of that is?
On March 30th, we'll be holding a press conference kicking off the program, and Newport Beach will be the official host city for the kickoff. And that's going to be at 3 o'clock at the Back Bay Science Center.
Oh, okay.
We'll also have the Wyland Clean Water Mobile Learning Center there. And for those of you who haven't seen this, it's a remarkable 1,000 square foot mobile learning center that we've taken all across the country. We've had more than 250,000 kids go through it. It actually rains inside this vehicle. There's a running river and a 40-person theater with special effects. And it teaches folks all over the country about urban runoff and the things that we can do at home. We've taken it to Mexico. We've converted the whole thing into Spanish. We have traveled from coast to coast. So I encourage folks to come out to the event, see what we're up to. And I also encourage the city of Newport Beach to continue to challenge other cities to see who can be the most water-wise. That's what this is really all about.
No, thank you very much. I hope our residents will have fun with it, and I think we can go beyond simply substituting a glass of wine for water at night. We can come up with a better plan than that, although that always helps. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Notice to the public.
The city provides a yellow sign-in card to assist in the preparation of the minutes. The completion of the card is not required in order to address the council. Speakers must limit comments to 5 minutes on agenda items. The council has the discretion to extend or shorten the time limit on agenda or non-agenda items. As a courtesy, please turn cell phones off or set them in the silent mode. Now is the time for council announcements or matters which council members would like placed on a future agenda for discussion, action, or report.
Councilman Hill.
Nothing, thank you.
Councilman Rosansky.
Nothing, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Curry.
Just a couple of things. This week, the Toshiba tournament is happening in Newport Beach. It's a great opportunity to see some of the world's greatest golfers right here in our own hometown. It's also a chance for you to go find out what all this hullabaloo is about this clubhouse you've been hearing about for the past 3 council meetings. But I encourage you to get out. It's a great time right here at the Newport Beach Country Club. Secondly, on March 15th will be the annual Orange Coast Mayor's Prayer Breakfast, and I'll be privileged to represent the city again at this event, which is always a great event throughout Orange County each and every March. And then finally, just let me say a few words of encouragement to the Long Beach State 49ers who have made it to the tournament this year. Go Beach.
Councilwoman Daigle.
Yes, tomorrow the California Public Employee Retirement System Board will meet, and they will consider revising their rate of return on this fund from 7.75% to 7.5%. And in the recent years, they've been falling short of their objectives, and so this has resulted in unfunded liabilities for cities where at the end of the year, when they determine what the liabilities are based on the pool of people, their age, when they might retire, and then they look at how the fund performed, they continue to fall short of that. Now, every city and every agency in California that contracts with PERS has gotten into this unfunded liability because PERS is not sending us the bill for ultimately what's really owed, because they keep missing the mark on their objectives as far as how the fund will be performing. So we're hoping that they make a vote for reality, which is what these funds are really earning. And then secondly, I attended the Little League opening day. I go every year. It's a great rite of passage for spring. And I think Councilman Selich was also there. And the guest speaker was Jim Abbott. He pitched for the Angels, and I think he pitched for the Yankees, too. And he's a resident in Corona Del Mar. So he gave a very inspiring kickoff for the Little League season. So thank you.
Councilman Henn.
Just 2 quick announcements. The Balboa Village Citizens Advisory Panel will be meeting on Tuesday, March 20th at 4 p.m. in the Nautical Museum. And the main topic will be to finish our discussion on parking regulations and governance for the village. This is all a part of the Balboa Village Visioning Plan that we've been working on. And then on Wednesday, March 21st, the Tidelands Committee will also meet at 4 p.m. in Oasis. We'll be discussing the Tidelands Infrastructure Master Plan and some prioritization work that the Citizens Advisory Panel has been doing. Thanks.
Councilman Selich.
Nothing this evening.
And I have nothing. Consent calendar.
All matters listed under consent calendar, items 1 through 12, are considered to be routine and will all be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. The council members have received detailed staff reports on each of the items recommending an action. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time the council votes on the motion unless members of the council, staff, or the public request specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Members of the public who wish to discuss a consent calendar item should come forward to the lectern upon invitation by the mayor and state their name and item number. If the optional signing card has been completed, it should be placed in the box provided at the podium.
Councilwoman Daigle?
None, thank you.
Councilman Henn?
And none for me.
Councilman Selich?
No items this evening.
Councilman Hill?
Nothing.
Councilman Rosansky?
Nothing, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Curry?
No items.
I have none. Staff?
On item number 5, you've been provided a resolution in regards to the rejection of the low bid received from ProTech Engineering Corporation. That should be adopted as part of the action item.
Thank you. Does anyone from the public have an item they wish to have removed from the consent calendar? Seeing nothing, may I have a motion?
I would move the adoption of the consent calendar, items 1 through 12, with the amendment to item 5 as noted by staff.
Second.
Please vote.
Prior to reading the vote, I'll read the resolution titles for item 3, resolution number 2012-23, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Newport Beach to post stop control on Hazel Drive at Poppy Avenue. And for item 5, resolution number 2012-24, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Newport Beach rejecting the low bidder, ProTech Engineering Corporation, for the fiscal year 2011-2012 streetlight improvement project is non-responsive. With that, the motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. And now we have public comments. You're busy, Leilani.
No, let me switch back to my agenda. Public comments are invited on non-agenda items generally considered to be within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes. Before speaking, please state your name for the record.
Dan Purcell, Corona Del Mar. I'd like to commend most council members for all the years and years of work that you put into this, day in, day out. It's a 24-hour day job. I know you take it home with you, and I really appreciate all of it. And I want to speak in support of our youth council. They're our future. They're going to be leading our city in the not-too-distant future. And we have had virtually zero participation by the liaison to the youth council this year. The person has not attended a single meeting. So I would hope that next year, whoever is appointed to our youth council and important to our future, take a more active role in assisting our youth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. My name is John Carr. I'm the Southern California Representative Volunteer for a nonprofit organization In God We Trust America. Our mission is to promote patriotism by encouraging elected officials like yourselves to vote yes to display our congressionally approved national motto, In God We Trust, in every city council in America. I'm a longtime resident of Orange County, and I'm very proud of our county. We have almost half of all the cities in Orange County already displaying our national motto, and we're one of the top counties in the country. President Eisenhower signed our national motto, In God We Trust, into law in 1956 after Congress had approved it. Excitingly, last November, Congress reaffirmed our national motto with a vote of 396 to 6. My purpose here tonight is to humbly request that you add this onto your agenda, hopefully in the very near future, and I'd certainly encourage you to vote yes on this. NBC did a poll. We're hearing a lot about polls in this political season, but NBC did a poll of your constituents, and over 86% of them voted in favor of In God We Trust as our national motto. So this is a patriotic issue, and that's what our In God We Trust America really is all about. Fortunately, it's not a religious issue because regardless of your race, creed, color, national origin, political persuasion, anyone living in America should be patriotic. And to me, patriotism is love of God and country. So I thank you for your time, and I humbly hope and request that you'd consider putting this on your next agenda. Thank you very, very much.
Mayor Gardner and council members. My name is Bob Kinton. I'm a Newport Beach resident. I'm standing in tonight for Bill Barrington, a friend of mine. We want to invite you to the annual Champion of Children event at the Whittier Law School at 3333 Harbor Boulevard, Costa Mesa, on Thursday, March 29, starting at 5:30 p.m. The event will be hosted by the Blue Ribbon Society. The society is a fundraising campaign of the Child Abuse Prevention Center of Orange County. The Blue Ribbon Society will be honoring Kimberly Kripe, CEO of Children's Hospital of Orange County. Complimentary wine and hors d'oeuvres will be served. Bill Barrington has been a supporter of the Child Abuse Prevention Center for 25 years and served on the board of directors twice for a total of 6 years and served as president of the board for 2 years. I've been a supporter for 14 years, and I've been a board member for 2 years. The Child Abuse Prevention Center's Blue Ribbon Society is a new entity focusing on preventing abuse of our children. Over the last 3 months, it seems that we see weekly newspaper reports on abuse, starting with the Penn State incident, then Santa Maria firefighters, and more recently school teachers. We take notice of these abuses, but then in time we forget. The society will look for ways that we can keep this issue in the minds of our parents so their children will never be abused. Starting in 1989, the Blue Ribbon Campaign, which serves as a reminder to end child abuse, began with a grandmother's personal commitment to end child abuse. By tying a blue ribbon to the antenna on her van, she made people wonder. When members of her community asked about the significance of the blue ribbon, Bonnie Finney shared the tragic story of her grandson's death. The 3-year-old Michael Wayne Dickerson was killed at the hands of her daughter's violent boyfriend. Please come and join us at this Blue Ribbon Society event. You can RSVP to the Child Abuse Prevention Center directly at area code 714-543-4333, or to Bill Barrington. You can fill up his mailbox at area code 949-760-6628. And we really like to have a good turnout, so everyone's invited. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment?
Mayor Gardner and members of the council, my name is Jim Mosier. You may recall at your last meeting you voted to join a petition objecting to the State Fair Political Practices Commission's interpretation of what you have to do when you appoint a fellow council person to an outside committee that pays more than $250 a year, a matter that the FPPC will be deciding at their meeting 2 days from now. At the time of your meeting, the public hadn't seen the petition itself, which is actually this. And having now seen it and seeing the name of the law firm of Rutan and Tucker on it, I am wondering if Newport Beach and the other Orange County cities are actually spending public funds to suppress clear disclosure of what should be public information, and if so, how much we are paying to pursue this. My wonderment is increased by knowing that our city attorney awarded an on-call contract to Rutan and Tucker, contract number C-5008, last November, shortly before this letter was sent to the FPPC naming you as a client and a petitioner, even though you hadn't consented to it, at least at any public meeting that I'm aware of. But what really bothers me is not the petition, but rather the contract itself. Like many contracts recently awarded by the city attorney, it has no dollar limit, it has no time limit, and it has no specified scope of services. In my view, a contract like that conflicts with our city charter, which tasks the city attorney with checking the legality of contracts for us, not with awarding them. Indeed, our charter very clearly states that all decisions as to whether outside legal assistance is required lies exclusively with you, the council. Yet there is no evidence that the contract with Rutan and Tucker and the many other similar ones that have been issued in the last 6 months or so have been approved by you or by the city manager, as is also required by the city charter. I'm not even sure that a contract like this can be reconciled with Article 11, Section 10 of the California Constitution, which implies that cities are restricted to letting contracts only for a definite scope of services, for that section makes it illegal to grant additional compensation once the contract has been entered into and begun, something that would not make much sense unless there was a definite limited scope. So in short, this petition bothers me, but the contract that we have with this law firm and other similar ones bother me even more. Thank you.
Just briefly, the contracts that we're entering into by the State Attorney's Office fully comply with both the charter and state law. The way we handle legal services is we basically have one master agreement, and then when we need particular services from one firm or the other, we do that via a letter which asks for the scope of services that we want them to provide and also sets a dollar limit on what they can bill us related to that item. And then each quarter we report to the City Council in accordance with council policies regarding what is spent under the contracts that we enter into.
Thank you. Is there other public comment? Seeing none. Oral reports from City Council on committee activities. Councilman Hill?
Nothing.
Councilman Rosansky?
Nothing, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Curry?
Actually, I do take that back. We did have a meeting of the Youth Council, contrary to what Mr. Purcell said earlier. Here at Chambers was Youth and Government Day. We had approximately 12 or 13 students here. Participating in Youth and Government Day was filmed, so those of you who did participate or who have children or grandchildren that participated will be hopefully televised on the MBTV, or you can see it on streaming video. I must say it's probably the best class of students I've had in the 8 years I've been doing it, and it was really a pleasure. It will be my last, unfortunately, because I am termed out this year, but whoever picks it up after I'm gone, I strongly encourage you to participate in that event, because it's quite eye-opening what the students come up with sometimes with the issues that we're presented with on a daily basis. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Curry? Councilman Daigle?
None.
Councilman Henn?
None for me.
Councilman Selich?
No reports.
And I have only a brief one. The Coastal Bay Water Quality Committee had a presentation on green streets. Very interesting. You can go to both Irvine and Los Angeles to see what the policies that they've set out to improve things like water quality and the amount of greenery and everything. Really some exciting things, and I was pleased to hear that our staff is incorporating some of these plans into our own projects, so that's good news. All right, now we have public hearings. The review of the Fletcher Jones Motorcar Development Agreement.
Yes. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Tonight, our first public hearing is a review of the Fletcher Jones Development Agreement. It's required by state law and through city ordinances that our development agreements be reviewed on an annual basis. Assistant Planner Fern Nueno is going to give the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Gardner, council members. This is a review of Fletcher Jones Motorcars Development Agreement number 9. Fletcher Jones has been operating since 1997 at this location near Jamboree and the 73. At the 2009 review, the City Council did determine that all of the conditions of the development agreement had been met. At the last review in 2011, the City Council did find Fletcher Jones was in good faith compliance with the development agreement. In 2011, 2 complaints were made regarding lighting and employee parking, and both of those issues have been resolved. And Carol McDermott is here to represent Fletcher Jones Motorcars. If you have any questions, the staff recommendation is to find Fletcher Jones in good faith compliance with the development agreement and receive and file their status report.
Are there any questions of staff? Councilwoman Daigle.
Yes, I would just thank Fletcher Jones Motorcars for being such a steady source of revenue for the city every year. You know, this year it enables us to, in part, expand our programs at Oasis Senior Center, put more police on the patrol, and no cuts to libraries. So thanks to steady revenue producers such as Fletcher Jones makes it all possible. So I would make the motion to for the staff recommendation.
Second that.
All right. I'd like to open it up for public comment.
Mayor Gardner and members of the council, my name is Jim Mosier. I live across the back bay from Fletcher Jones. I have no specific complaint about them, and I didn't comment on this when it was reviewed last year, but it seems the City Council in 1995 gave them a real sweetheart deal, at least in my opinion, where they put together what we see up there on the board of what was formerly Irvine Company property and 2 parcels of public land that were put together. They had been intended to be, prior to this, to be used for open space, a fire station, and a park and ride facility. And they were, I don't know, given or sold to Fletcher Jones in return for 3 promises, which are in the development agreement. One is a promise to open a Mercedes dealership on that land. 2 is for 5 years to pay a minimum amount of sales tax, which they did, but the 5 years are long past. And 3, over the same 5-year period, to pay for the paving of the street adjacent to it called Bayview Way. The agreement apparently, according to the staff report, goes until 2015. I've been scratching my head wondering what would happen if we ripped up the agreement today. It doesn't seem like it would have any impact either on the city or on Fletcher Jones. But the only substantive comment that I wanted to make, and I think other people have raised this question maybe in 2009, and I'm still not clear on the answer, and it's kind of outside the scope of the area that's outlined up there. But although Fletcher Jones paid for paving Bayview Way, it is, I believe, a public street, but they use it as sort of an extension of their dealership. It's kind of a queuing area for people wanting service or whatever, and I'm wondering what kind of an agreement they have that they are using what seems to be a public street for that purpose. Thank you.
Thank you. Comment on that?
Fletcher Jones does have an encroachment permit with our Public Works Department to use Bayview Way.
Any other public comment? No? I'll bring it back for a vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
And now for the Newport Beach Country Club Golf Realty Fund, 1600 and 1602 East Coast Highway.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, Principal Planner Jim Campbell will provide the presentation this evening.
Mayor Gardner and members of the City Council. This is the Newport Beach Country Club application proposed by Golf Realty Fund, 1600 and 1602 East Coast Highway. The City Council reviewed this application first on January 24th, 2012. They did approve a majority of the application proposed by Golf Realty. They adopted a mitigated negative declaration. They adopted a planned community development plan for the golf club and the tennis club sites. They did approve project-specific applications to develop the tennis club site only. They also, you indicated approval of a development agreement for that project. At that same meeting, the City Council approved the Newport Beach Country Club application proposed by Newport Beach Country Club Incorporated. That included a general plan amendment, an amendment to the golf club plan community text, and applications to develop a larger clubhouse than the application proposed by Golf Realty Fund. Additionally, a development agreement was also authorized. On February 14th, the applicant requested a continuance of the planned community development plan and the development agreement, the ordinances that were being considered that evening. After that hearing, the applicant indicated they wanted to amend the development agreement to only apply to the tennis club site, as well as to let the council consider an alternative development plan for the golf club site. On February 28th, the City Council reconsidered the previous action and continued the entire project to this evening. So the entire project is here before the council this evening for consideration. The proposed alternative site plan. It only covers the golf club site. The key differences with the approved plan for the site, which is, again, approved, a different application for the Newport Beach Country Club Incorporated. There is a reduction in the clubhouse size to 35,000 square feet from 54,000 square feet. The reorientation of the parking lot and the aisles eliminates the frontage road to the Armstrong Garden Center, and also eliminated the acceleration lane and relocation of a driveway. Here is an alternative site plan. There really is no difference from the original application that the applicant we brought forward to the City Council on January 24th. The deceleration lane was here, driveway was here. Again, those were components with a compromise plan, and they also differ from the approved plan for the site. But again, this is really, the application is envisioned by the applicant that was brought forward on January 24th, but was not approved. There's a little blow-up of that site plan. I think you've seen that one before. Now, in order to accommodate this application, you need to recall that we've got an approved vested site plan for the Newport Beach Country Club Incorporated on this site. We've expressed some concerns about the approval of two different site plans for the same piece of property. In order to allow this to come forward, we've identified a condition as part of the approval if the council chooses to proceed forward with this alternative site plan. And it basically renders the approval of the site plan ineffective until such time that the development agreement is no longer effective for the Newport Beach Country Club. So kind of to sum up, to address the tennis club site approval, again, the entire project needs to be reaffirmed. The first item to accomplish that would be to introduce the ordinance that's attached to the staff report, which establishes the zoning and development standards for the Newport Beach Country Club, for the tennis club site specifically. Secondly, it would be to reconfirm the adoption of the resolution that was done at the prior meeting. That's Resolution 2012-10, which approves the tennis club site plan. So the bungalows, the villas, the tennis courts, the stadium court, and the spa facility. And also to reintroduce the ordinance to approve the development agreement if the vesting of that approval is desirable. Again, those were the actions that were taken, would reflect the same approval that was granted on January 24th. Now, for the golf club site, we've got that alternative site plan. What we would need to do here is there is a draft resolution attached to the staff report which would accommodate the applicant's request to approve that alternative site plan. If that is desired by the City Council, we provided that mechanism. I will point out that there was a variety of typographical errors in that resolution. They've been corrected and given to the city clerk. None of them were substantive. They were all Scrivener's errors. Now, we do still have significant concerns about having two site plans approved for the same site. It is an unprecedented action. Just wanted to reaffirm staff's concern about doing that, but we have provided in the recommendation a path forward to approve that alternative site plan, and that's the resolution in the package 2012-10A. Now, that resolution, if adopted, would reaffirm the tennis club site approval and approve the alternative site plan. Actually, that really does conclude my comments. If the council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Does the council have any questions of staff?
I'd like to ask the city attorney, can the city attorney comment on the issues relative to the two approved plans, or two plans to be approved?
Originally, what was approved was basically a white hole in their application, primarily because they were seeking to have vested rights in the development agreement. We didn't want to have conflicts in those vested rights. So we've now revised the development agreement so that the Gulf Realty would no longer have vested rights to that portion of the property. We did recently receive a CEQA lawsuit from the Friends of Good Planning, and we do have some concerns that even though it's not the case that the smaller project is better for the environment, that it might be an issue that's argued by the plaintiffs in that case, that the approval of this project would somehow be seen as approving something that had less of an impact on the environment, which we do not believe is the case. You know, both projects were analyzed, and through the mitigated negative deck process, it was determined that they were mitigated to below a level of significance. But we do have those concerns, and it would be a recommendation of our office to not approve the alternative site plan as requested by Gulf Realty.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Would the applicant like to come forward?
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, I'm Robert O'Hill with Gulf Realty Fund. We've worked diligently and in good faith with the staff over the last almost month to come up with something that we can live with. We support the recommendations on the first page of the staff report, and we ask that you approve an alternative so that there be maximum flexibility for IBC's future owner. We think we all want to see a 5-star improvement done sooner rather than later. In the last few days, I've learned about the CEQA lawsuit from Friends for Good Planning. I want to assure you that I'm not a sponsor of that or a cheerleader for it. I'm sorry it happened. I think it's better if everyone's concerns are addressed in different ways. So I ask that you approve the alternate plan and allow for maximum flexibility. We've been at this for 17 years, and I'm sure you're tired of seeing me here, and I hope that from now on I don't have to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Are there any questions from Mr. O'Hill?
Just to be clear for the record, Mr. O'Hill, you're not in any way the client in interest, funding, sponsoring, or otherwise supporting this lawsuit?
Correct.
Thank you.
All right. I will open this now to public comment.
Good evening, Mayor Gardner, members of the council. I'm Shauna Schaffner from CA Planning on behalf of Newport Beach Country Club. We have significant concerns with the alternative plan for Gulf Realty Fund, and we urge the council to deny the alternative site plan for 3 reasons. Number 1, it was clear from the Planning Commission action and the council's action of January 24th that the city does not want to see 2 site plans for 1 project site. As a practical matter, the site is bound by a long-term lease, and this alternate plan could not be developed for 55 years. But the real issue is the doubt that the approval and concept, or that the approval of this alternate plan would place on the approval and concept that the city has already issued for Newport Beach Country Club. The approval and concept, which I have here, says that the city should not, or should this city adopt an ordinance deleting, amending, or adding to the zoning ordinance or other regulations in any manner that would affect the use of the property or the design of a project located thereon, this approval and concept that was issued for MBCC shall become null and void as of the effective date of said ordinance. Approval of this alternate site plan could jeopardize the approval that the city has already put in place for Newport Beach Country Club, and it will certainly make matters very confusing with the Coastal Commission. Number 2, Gulf Realty Fund Development Agreement has been revised to remove the golf clubhouse. Since the alternative site plan will not be covered by the DA, the Gulf Realty Fund could construct a new golf clubhouse without paying a public benefit fee to the city. It is unclear why the city would choose to forego the collection of revenue from Gulf Realty Fund when they are requiring the payment of a public benefit fee from Newport Beach Country Club. If it is the city's position that a development agreement could be renegotiated in the future to include the golf clubhouse if an alternate plan were advanced, surely you could wait and see those new plans at that future point in time. And number 3, this alternative plan simply does not work. When compared to industry standards for parking, circulation, access, the size of the internal components, this plan does not measure up with the MBCC plan. Through the course of the public hearing process on this project, we have heard from several members of the country club and also from leadership of the Toshiba tournament, all of whom support the MBCC plan. The Planned Community Development Plan, which has already been adopted for the golf club site, provides the broad flexibility in the development standards that Gulf Realty Fund appears to be seeking. There is no reason to approve an alternate site plan when the applicant could go through the site development review standards identified in the PC, and no amendment to the PC is necessary. For each of these reasons, we find the approval of an alternate site plan both unnecessary and as a tactic used to further delay the Newport Beach Country Club. MBCC respectfully requests that the council deny this alternative site plan, and I appreciate the council's careful consideration of this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there other public comment on this issue?
Good evening, members of the City Council. My name is Mike Recupero, and I represent one half of the ownership of the property being entitled tonight. With regard to the golf club property, we share staff's concerns. We agree with the city attorney's analysis. But apart from the lawsuit, I think it's important that the golf club be considered on its merits tonight and denied this alternative site plan. We agree with the IBC's comments that it is just not good planning. To allow this to go forward, to simply allow Mr. O'Hill to have his personal vision for a parking lot makes no sense. It endangers a viable business here in Newport Beach, Armstrong Nursery, that's been here for a long time. It's not good for the tournament, and it's not good for the operational constraints of the golf club. With regard to the tennis club site, I think there's been a mistake in the resolution. And if I could ask the question, I'm interested. We understand that this entitlement for the tennis club went forward without the consent of our clients who own half of the property. We've been informed over the last year that actual development permits would not be able to be pulled, grading and building permits, without the owner's consent, and assumed that that's the case. I would suggest and ask if the city attorney or planning staff could answer our question, just so it's clear, because the resolution doesn't seem to be clear, that the owner's consent will be required before development permits are actually pulled. And if I could ask you to look at paragraph 22 of the resolution on page 13, an easy fix is, it says now, prior to the issuance of any permit for development, approval of the Coastal Commission shall be required. It should say, I believe, approval of the Coastal Commission and consent of the ownership should be required. And so I may be missing something, that there is another provision in here that requires the consent of the owners, but I'm not seeing it. And I don't know if it was removed, but I think that would be critical to your decision tonight. Thank you.
All right. Is there other public comment while we're waiting for the necessary research?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Tim Paone. I'm speaking on behalf of Golf Realty Fund. I just wanted to address a couple comments that have been made, because I think some things are being blown way out of proportion. To understand the reason for this plan, it's simply to have an alternative available should someone other than the current owners of IBC come forward with a development plan without having to go through a couple-year process. It's not as simple as just coming back in and getting the planning director's approval because of the frontage road, which is a major issue. And so we're asking the council to create greater flexibility for the next owner of IBC. It's well known that that club is for sale. There was one sale, highly publicized, already fell through. So we're just trying to create flexibility. The development agreement that over my objections with staff, we went along with a provision in the development agreement that says even though it doesn't apply to the tennis club, if somehow Golf Realty Fund was to build a tennis clubhouse, which has never been its intention, it has no basis for doing so. This is about what happens on the property, not about Golf Realty Fund building a clubhouse. But nonetheless, that provision is in there, despite what you heard earlier, that says we have to pay those fees. Lastly, the notion that it can't be built for 55 years that's just as wrong as anything could be. If it's approved, it can be built as soon as whoever, IBC or his successor, chooses to build that clubhouse. That's all it's about. It's being blown way, way out of proportion. We would like to see the alternative for a less intense golf clubhouse there if IBC's successor prefers a less intense golf clubhouse without forcing them to go through what could be a 2-year entitlement process. That's what it's about. Thank you.
Thank you. Did we get that question answered, the previous question?
I would like to ask Ms. Mulvihill to answer that question.
I know Ms. Brandt might want to add something. I wanted to confirm with Mr. Recupero what exactly he was intending. And what he's requesting is that in your council resolution there be language regarding who is allowed to, in essence, pull building permits. That issue is addressed by staff in the PC text. The PC text on handwritten page 57 to your staff report includes paragraph 16. So by ordinance, it reads that written property owner approval shall be required for the submittal of any site development review application and/or prior to grading and/or building permit issuance. I did confirm with Mr. Acupio he liked that language in your resolution. Staff doesn't feel it's necessary, but that certainly is council prerogative if they would like to do so. He would also like to clarify what exactly is meant by written property owner. With this particular application, the terms property owner have meant different things to different people. We have included in the development agreement a definition for property owner which does refer to Mr. O'Hill as the managing owner. That was a specific definition for the development agreement. Mr. Recupio is suggesting that because we have the development agreement setting forth property owner as being Mr. O'Hill, that this PC text, again a separate action, a separate document, should clarify that by written property owner we also mean all owners of the property. Again, this is not something that staff believes is necessary, and we drafted the ordinance with that in mind as well as the resolution. But I did want to clarify that that was the substance of Mr. Recupio's comments. Correct?
Thank you. Anything else on that? Okay. All right. Is there any more public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to council. Do I have more discussion, a motion? Should we go home? Councilman Henn.
Well, this is, I agree with staff's view that it's not good planning to approve two site development plans for the same piece of property. I think it is confusing to others. And furthermore, I prefer the site development plan that we did approve. And so, my view is that we should move the action for approval as it relates to, and I'll need a little help from the city attorney here to make sure I get this right, but as I understand it, we could move approval then for the planned community development plan that would allow for the development of the tennis club site. Is that correct?
That's correct. You, in essence, if you wanted to go with the previous site development plan that you had approved and not the alternative, you would move recommended items 2 and 4, and instead of number 3, instead of adopting the resolution, which was the subject of Mr. Recupio's comments, you would basically make a motion to reaffirm the January 24, 2012 approval of the site development review number SD 2011-02 by resolution number, it's actually 2012-10. It's mistakenly printed here on the staff report for 1602 East Coast Highway. That would be the action.
I move what he said.
Do we all understand that? So that would be one motion, so that if I voted, at the previous meeting, I voted against the tennis club site. So if I'm voting no for the whole thing, like I'm supporting this alternate site, then? No, okay.
No.
All right. Okay. Would you like to vote, or yes?
Back to Mr. Recupio's question. Since we have a division of opinion from the ownership here, how will we resolve this in the event that we have different owners having different opinions about pulling the building permit?
Thank you. Community Development Director and I did speak about this. We believe that it's obviously clear that the current zoning code, as well as the intention of council probably, is to require all owners of the property, fee owners, to sign the approval application, with the exception of we wouldn't require financial institutions, things that hold mortgages on the papers. That, as far as this property, would seem to include the managing owners, his partners. That was the intent of us requiring the written ownership. The same intent is applicable to the IBC application, which is the tenant. We will also require not only addition of the tenant's signature on the pulling of the building permits, but as well as the fee owner, which would include the managing owner as well as the partners. Subject to all of this potentially changing if there's a sale, but our understanding is that our concern is that the people that are pulling building permits are the ones that own the property. So we would serve that intention. If there is a contrary intention, or if council deems it necessary to make it clear, we certainly can include language. It does get difficult because I don't think what we want to do is make people get their mortgage and their financial institutions to sign up on the applications. But I know that that's the way that community development and I've talked about approaching it.
Thank you. Councilman Selich?
Yeah, I've got a question for the city attorney. I'm a little confused on the development agreement now. If we take the recommended action tonight on page 9 of the development agreement, it's handwritten page 90, do we need to remove the reference to $10 per square foot for construction of the proposed golf clubhouse, or are we leaving it in there in the event that there may be a golf clubhouse from our previous actions?
Yeah, no, I think you would leave the language in there. Even though you're not approving the alternative site plan, there's still the potential in the future that they could come forward with some type of proposal to build something on that site.
All right. Any other questions? And please vote.
Prior to reading the vote, I'll read the titles for the ordinances. Ordinance number 2012-2, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newport Beach approving Plan Community Development Plan Amendment number PC 2005-002 for the Newport Beach Country Club property located at 1602 East Coast Highway, and ordinance number 2012-3, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newport Beach approving Plan Community Development Plan Amendment number PC 2005-002 for the Newport Beach Country Club property located at 1602 East Coast Highway. Both ordinances are for introduction. With Mayor Gardner voting no, the motion carries.
Thank you. And now to current business and appointments to fill the vacancies in the Harbor Commission and Planning Commission. Staff, is there any presentation on this item?
If you
No.
desire.
Do you have any questions of staff after that non-presentation? I assume no. Do any members of the public wish to comment on this item?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. I'd like to speak up on behalf of Tim Brown, who I believe is one of the nominees. I thoroughly support your unanimous vote for him on the
I think you said his
Planning
name.
Commission.
Didn't you say your name?
Philip Lugar?
Yeah, I thought you did.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a resident of District 4. Yes. Yes, I think Councilor Day will support that. I have served with Tim on Parks, Beaches, and Recreation for 7 years, and he's always been prepared. He always shows up. He's a very good member of commissions. He's experienced. What else can I say? Tim was a great commissioner, and we all thought so because we supported him twice in a row for a chair. So I hope you all agree and nominate or vote for Tim on the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment on this issue? All right. I need a motion to determine whether the term of the Planning Commission seats will expire on June 30th, 2012, in other words, an interim position, or shall it be a full-time and serve slightly longer than the 4 years for June 30th, 2016.
So moved.
Which one?
Second.
Thank you. So it's a big help.
Second.
Huh? That.
Either 2016 or this year.
2016. I moved to 2016. Beat you to it, Ed.
All right. So the motion is that the Planning Commission term would be until June 30th, 2016. And there was a second? Is there any public comment? All right. Seeing none, I'll bring it back for a vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right. And now we will vote on, are we going to do it both at once or one at a time?
We can do them both at once.
All right.
But I'll read the votes separate.
Okay. So we're going to vote one choice for Harbor Commission and one choice for Planning Commission.
read the votes first for the Harbor Commission, and the choices are between Chandler Bell and Dave Gerling. Councilmember Hill votes for Dave Gerling. Councilmember Rosansky, Dave Gerling. Councilmember Daigle, Dave Gerling. Councilmember Henn, Chandler Bell. Councilmember Selich, Chandler Bell. Mayor Pro Tem Curry, Chandler Bell.
Ooh, I get to decide.
And Mayor Gardner, Dave Gerling. So Dave Gerling is the member on the Harbor Commission. So the first vote for the Planning Commission, and the three members are either Tim Brown, Willard Dunlap, or Stephen Coyne. Councilmember Resch votes for Tim Brown. Councilmember Rosansky, Tim Brown. Councilmember Daigle, Stephen Coyne. Councilmember Henn, Stephen Coyne. Councilmember Selich, Stephen Coyne. Mayor Pro Tem Keith Curry, Tim Brown. And Mayor Gardner, Tim Brown. So Tim Brown is now the newest member on the Planning Commission until 2016.
Thank you. And now the moment we've all been waiting for. The Corona Del Mar and Balboa fire rings. We have a presentation by staff.
We do. Laura Detweiler, the Director of Recreation and Senior Services, will lead that presentation. I think you have a PowerPoint too, right?
I feel like I'm in good company surrounded by trees here at my desktop. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I'm Laura Detweiler, Recreation and Senior Services Director. And this item is seeking your direction to remove all 60 fire rings located specifically on Balboa and Corona Del Mar beaches. At your request, the Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Commission considered this item and discussed issues and solutions at their February 7th meeting, and voted 4-3 in favor of removal of all 60 fire rings. At that meeting, 19 members of the public spoke in great detail about their concerns related to the use of the rings and spoke in favor of removal. Although the rings have been in place for many years and have been enjoyed by many people, there are concerns. And they relate specifically to health impacts to the nearby residents, but also the beachgoers due to smoke, particulate matter, hot ash, and the public testimony at the commission meeting was extremely compelling, and we provided that information in your staff report in detail. But they related to child safety, air quality, hazards, toxic fumes, burning embers floating in the air, careless burning of hazardous materials, as well as many AQMD studies which speak specifically about restrictions in studies and the risk related to the smokes with fire rings. Staff provided the Recreation Commission with several solutions to consider: partial or full removal of the fire rings, look at limiting the hours of operation of the fire rings, limit the types of burning product. For example, the Duraflame roasting log is new and touts burning 60% cleaner than wood. A combination of any of the above, or the fire rings would remain as they currently exist. For your reference this evening, I've provided 3 aerials which illustrate where our rings are currently placed. There are 33 at Balboa Pier. These are the rings on the north side. They'll show you the proximity to the homes, 330 feet, the parking lot adjacent to them. This is the south side of the pier. Its adjacency to our sports fields at Peninsula Park, as well as the homes which are within 300 feet of the fire rings. And then Corona Del Mar State Beach with their proximity at 385 and then up to about 510 to Ocean Boulevard. As you were aware, during the summer months, these are heavily used, and thousands of people gather on that beach adjacent to those fire rings. The council staff report included research materials that staff conducted related to Southern California fire rings, just to give you an idea of what was going on around us. We also included research materials that were provided by Commissioner Hamilton related to health and safety issues, and then all correspondence received up to the posting of the agenda item, as well as a draft excerpt of the Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Commission minutes of February 7th. So with that, staff recommends you direct us to take the necessary steps to remove all 60 fire rings located at Balboa and Corona Del Mar Beach. And with that, that concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there questions for staff? I have a question. How much discussion was there actually given to the alternatives proposed, aside from the removal of all of them?
Well, quite a bit. There were also other solutions that came forward with the commission when we went over those solutions to potentially look at conducting a study regarding the air quality issues related to the burning in the rings, but also to look at gas fire rings as well. So there were other solutions beside what we had actually listed for the commission.
All right. Any other questions? All right. I'm going to open it up to the public. I know that a lot of you wish to speak, and I have to tell you that this is one of those issues that for me is a difficult one, because part of it is that there is no question. One of the complaints that we have gotten from those who support the fire rings and don't want to see them removed is that this is NIMBYism, that all the complaints are coming from people who live right there. And I'm sensitive to that, because I understand that it seems like, well, you knew the fire rings were there when you moved in. But at the same time, I'm also sensitive to the fact that we have discovered things about air quality and the burning of wood that we didn't know then. I mean, the AQMD didn't have policies then. So I'm really interested in your comments, and I hope that you'll make them thoughtful and help me at least come to a decision on this issue. So I open it up for public comment now.
May I go first? My name is Frank Peters. I have a presentation that I've prepared.
And I hope it is within the time limit.
Don't start timing me yet, please.
Are you ready?
My name is Frank Peters.
Are you ready? Can we start now?
I'm a resident at Breakers Drive. I live right at Big Corona. I am also a photographer of sorts, and over the years I've taken many photos. This is not Persian New Year as of tonight. It's a Memorial Day years ago. 27 fire rings. They look kind of nostalgic there. And certainly people come to the beach and they enjoy the experience. And I myself have brought the Boy Scouts to the beach for events much like this. But I didn't know of the dangers at that time. Sam Harris, a UCLA neuroscientist and philosopher, wrote recently The Fireplace Delusion. Even plain, clean wood is claimed to be toxic, to the extent 12 times more carcinogenic than equal amounts of tobacco smoke. That kind of boggles the mind for me, but I trust the EPA here. Long-term exposures lead to reduced lung function, chronic bronchitis, even premature death. Of course, pallets, much more dangerous. How would you like to breathe some smoking methyl bromide? No, thank you. Here's the American Lung Association. Researchers are reporting that wood smoke contains the same toxic chemicals found in cigarette smoke. And of course, I think at some level we all know we're in great jeopardy due to earthquakes and our air quality here. This really accents the risk of death. Fires have the potential to shorten the average human lifespan. And I personally understand this. My mother was not a resident of Newport Beach. She died in December of emphysema and COPD. She couldn't come visit because of the conditions at the beach. We all know now that the Air Quality Management District, you can't get a permit for a wood-burning fireplace either indoors or out in Southern California because of the dangers of wood smoke. So if the fire rings are dangerous, may we remove them? The parking lot will still be full. Some objections about loss of revenue. People will still come. They'll be sold out. People come to the beach for all kinds of reasons, but they don't expect to be poisoned by the wood smoke. I propose our beaches are a precious resource to the community. Let's make them safe for all. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
I'll speak briefly. I'm Ryan Klein. I'm a pulmonologist, and I was recently completed my tenure as the chief of the Division of Pulmonary Medicine at Hoag Hospital. I wanted to talk a little bit about the dangers of the smoke and the dangers not just to lungs but other potential health-related injuries. I thought I'd first comment, I've lived in Newport Beach my whole life. I was the editor of the Corona High School Trident while I was in high school there, and I remember that when I was the editor of the Trident, one of the articles I remember writing the most was about air quality in Southern California. And it still strikes me that the air quality in Southern California is actually improving compared to the 1960s. That's because in the 1960s, they outlawed people burning their trash in their backyard and people burning other things that they just felt like not having around. So it seems inconsistent to me here in 2012 that we still have areas where things are burned outdoors in the open air when the general movement has been to preserve the air quality and improve the air quality in Southern California. In terms of health-related issues, I wanted to mention that more so than the carcinogenic effects of the smoke in the wood-burning fires and other things that are thrown into the flames, there's the risk of exacerbations and aggravations of asthma and COPD. Asthma and COPD are very common conditions of the lung that can be aggravated by irritants such as smoke and outdoor flames, and they constitute significant reasons why people go to emergency rooms. I don't know the data, but I would predict that a lot of people that come to enjoy the beach who have asthma or COPD may surprisingly and inadvertently be exposed to the smoke and the noxious fumes, have an irritation of their asthma or COPD, and land in the Hoag Emergency Department. So we have health-related issues relating both to long-term effects from the smoke, such as cancer, and lung cancer is a significant concern. But that's a long-term issue. I think more immediately, health-related issues related to these outdoor burnings of wood and other things that are thrown into the fire relate to aggravating asthma and COPD. Asthma might affect as much as 20% of the population. COPD is an increasingly prevalent condition, especially among adults, more so in other parts of the country than here in California where people smoke a lot less. But we have people from other parts of the country coming and visiting here and being exposed and surprised when suddenly their breathing is worse. I did my pulmonary training at UCI Medical Center, where one of the intensive care units that I worked in was the burn center. And I didn't keep any data or statistics, but accidental burn injuries are very common causes of people ending up with extensive burns over their body and landing in the burn ICU at UCI Medical Center. Of course, cigarette smoking is probably the most common cause of that, but accidents due to burns, due to exposure, and accidents in situations such as are concerned here with these open rings of fire are, lead to significant events in this regard as well. As a medical professional, I'm here if you have any questions that I can address to help you making a decision.
Thank you. All right. Next.
My name is Charles Farrell. Pleasure to be here. I live on oceanfront between the piers, much closer to the Balboa Pier, between Adams and Coronado on the Balboa Peninsula. Directly in front of my house, I have 15 fire pits that burn about 8 hours a day, about 300 days a year. Dirty black smoke rises for hundreds of feet into the air. Thanks to the prevailing winds, that mixture of smoke and dirt is what I breathe inside my home. I have a $500 Sharper Image air purifier. It gets filled with pure black residue, and I clean it regularly. Unfortunately, I can't do the same for my lungs. Before I go to sleep at night, I put my face in front of the purifier to remember what clean air smells like. The worst of the smell comes in between about 11 p.m. and 12 midnight, about 1 to 2 hours after the ring burners have done their final fireball, a crescendo of burning plastics being released into the air. It's the plastic smell that makes me sick. It's like living in your garage with your car running. You don't die because you left a window open. At work, my colleagues say I smell like smoke. Not cigarette smoke, though, but a dirty smoke smell. I'm Pigpen at work. I am here because I am a victim of slow asphyxiation, and because my clothes smell really bad at work sometimes. A few years ago, a smoking ban was placed on restaurants. Initially, this was done to protect restaurant workers from deadly secondhand smoke. Patrons were slowly killing themselves. Fortunately, the state took this seriously and changed the law. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think Newport Beach is our business. We work and play here. We pay the taxes here. We're the owners of our Newport Beach restaurant. It's a very special place. We welcome guests from all over the world. We're very happy they come. But let's get this straight. This is our business. We are the deciders. We choose what goes on our menu, and we establish the rules. If our customers don't like the rules, they can find another place to go. I remember there were some doubting Thomases that said the restaurant business would be ruined by banning cigarettes. Well, that was a smokescreen. Today, in the midst of a serious recession, I can't get a parking spot at my favorite restaurants, much less a table. Today, the eating experience is purely the smell of good food, not the dirty, poisonous air of chemical byproducts. The doubting Thomases were wrong then, and they're wrong now. We should do the right thing. A clean, healthy environment will attract more people to our beaches, not less. Businesses will thrive better than ever before, like the restaurant business did. Bring back the smell of salt air, which I don't smell very often anymore. Like good food, it smells great, ocean air. I want to take a stroll down our beach without the stench of thick, toxic smoke filling my lungs, make Newport Beach a healthier place for all of us to enjoy. Last night there were 20 kids that were busted by the cops. They were taking, this is last night, and it'll show about midnight. They were dumping the trash cans that were full of plastic into the fire pits at 2 hours past the curfew. The cops were great. They came out, busted all of them. They wrote a report. I saw them through my binoculars. But dumping trash into those pits, and by the way, the smell was terrible until 2 in the morning, and I had to shut all the doors to my room so I could breathe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, please.
Mayor Gardner, City Council. I'm here to make not to make a emotional plea.
Your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Wes Hatfield, and I live at 226 Jasmine, right above Big Corona Beach. And so I want to make sort of more of a common sense type of an argument tonight that Mayor Gardner, I think, will help you, understand this situation. We've heard, that wood smoke is similar to a cigarette smoke. That's well documented. They both contain the polyaromatic hydrocarbons and the pyrobenzenes that are common. They're the carcinogens that cause cancer. It's also well known and documented by the EPA that the burning of 10 pounds of wood, it's about 2 logs that you can buy at Albertsons to take down to the beach, produces the same amount of smoke and the same carcinogens as 4,300 cigarettes. Now then, as an ex-smoker myself, I happen to know that there are 20 cigarettes a pack, and there are 10 packs per carton. So that means that those 2 logs are equivalent to burning 215 packages of cigarettes or 21 and a half cartons. Now, I stopped by, and looked over the beach today because I didn't know how many fire rings there were. I counted them. They're right. There are 27 fire rings down there. Okay, so you take those 2.5 cartons of cigarettes by 27 fire rings, and you're up to 580 cartons of cigarettes. Now, it turns out it takes about 1 hour, and that's being conservative. I mean, on your own fireplace, you know how long it takes to burn 2 logs. Let's say it takes an hour to burn those 2 logs. Okay, that means that over a period of just 2 hours, that would be equivalent to burning 116,000 cigarettes per hour on the beach. Now, the irony is that if I go down to the beach and burn 1 cigarette, I will be cited. Why will I be cited? Because secondhand smoke is dangerous. How on earth can we continue to allow 116,000 cigarettes to be burned on our beaches every hour, every night for 4 hours, and not allow our citizens to smoke a single cigarette on the beach? I hope you can understand that, Mayor Gardner.
I can understand that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I think I'm pretty much against everybody here. But my name is Sandra Coop. I have been a resident of Newport Beach for the past 22 years. And my thoughts on this is that the fire pits were put in for the enjoyment of the residents, not only of Newport Beach, but, you know, everybody from all around the world. Every time that a resident or anybody enjoys something, like a park, and a kid gets hurt, we want to get rid of the park. If somebody enjoys walking on the beach and they fall down, oh, what are we going to do? Get rid of the sand, get rid of the beach so that nobody gets hurt? We cannot be responsible for careless individuals that get hurt. We cannot be held responsible for kids. I'm reading here child safety. Yes, there's kids that get hurt because their parents are not supervising those kids. There's people around us that, you know, we need to realize that some things, I think, we need to enjoy them. I agree here that we could maybe compromise and limit the hours of operations of our fire pits so that maybe people are not drunk and late at night throwing trash and throwing things that should not go in there. As far as the smoke that we just heard, there are products out there that are safe, or maybe not 100% safe, but what is? Our food is not 100% safe. Our milk is not 100% safe. There's hormones. I mean, are we going to ban everything? Are we going to ban the hormones in our milk? Are we going to ban milk because it's not safe for everybody? I think we need to take the approach of somewhat more of a compromise where we can maybe limit the hours of operations, find products that are safer to burn, but allow us to enjoy, you know, what we like. I've been enjoying the fire pits for 22 years now. My kids have enjoyed them for 10 years. I bring Girl Scouts to the beach every year. And it's been wonderful. It's been a wonderful family, community experience to experience something like that. So I'm hoping you don't take that away from us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for your time. My name is Kate Svensson. I am a resident of Newport Coast. I do not live within 510 feet of the fire rings. I'm here primarily to speak on behalf of a woman named Julie Mellum, and she is from Minnesota and couldn't be here obviously tonight. Julie is the founder of Take Back the Air. Her letter goes as such. Quote, I would like to address the severe health effects of breathing wood smoke and how the smoke presents an actual physical barrier to people with asthma and other breathing disorders. The black carbon soot, fine particulates that burning wood emits are a terrific health hazard. Asthma is the #1 reason for school absenteeism and trips to the emergency room. This is harming our kids as much as the potential and actual burns. The science is clear. There is no safe level of wood smoke. Wood smoke contains cancer-causing and hormone-disrupting toxicants and are proven known killers. Wood smoke is even implicated in premature death in people of all ages. She goes on to say, one more key point. The ADA, or Americans with Disabilities Act, guarantees that cities will remove all barriers that prevent access to public spaces such as parks, beaches, streets, and public events. allowing fire rings to smoke out people with asthma and anything else, or anyone else who finds physical smoke a barrier could bring lawsuits against a city. I also buy organic, hormone-free milk as an option.
Thank you. Next, please.
I also live on the ocean front near Coronado Street. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I also live
Can we
on
have
the
your,
ocean
have your
front.
name?
Sally Sullivan.
Thank you.
And I've been there we've owned the property for over 40 years. And during that time, our family, our grandchildren, our children have all grown up cherishing the fire pits. We live in a duplex. We live upstairs. Our whole window in the front, our whole front is all glass. I look out at the fire pits all day long. When I'm up, when I go to bed, I went to bed 11 o'clock last night, and there was one little fire that I could see out there. But who knows what? All I can say is we observe this all the time. And I don't see much disruption out there. There's groups out there laughing, having a good time. I think my strongest point is my husband and I, we walk up and down the street, take walks all the time. The air in the ocean front, which may be very different than Corona Del Mar, I don't ever notice the smoke. Occasionally I can smell it. But very honestly, that ocean blows away, I would guess, a good 80% of the fumes. So I'm agreeing like this one other lady who spoke. Perhaps we need to control it more and modify it more. But I want us to say, Balboa has had a heritage forever. We lost the merry-go-round. You know, we had an image of a place to go. We're losing our image, our identity. So I just would like to have a vote in favor. Modify, but don't take them away. At least by Balboa.
All right. Thank you very much. Next.
Good evening. My name is Charlotte Stevens, and I'm a property owner on Breakers Drive. I hear from different sources that much of the concern here is the nostalgia associated with fire rings. Well, I too have fond memories of roasting hot dogs and marshmallows at the beach with my 3 children, but we arrived early enough so there would be sufficient time to completely extinguish the small fire by about 8 p.m. However, that was then, and this is now. We are experiencing a time when blatant disregard of rules and laws seem to be the now thing. This behavior is affecting our community and, needless to say, our beaches. I understand that there is concern also with losing parking revenue at Big Corona Beach. From my kitchen window's vantage point, which is adjacent to the downhill drive to the beach, I have noticed SUVs, RVs, pickup trucks dropping off passengers together with barbecue kettles, wooden pallets, and who knows what else. After which the vehicle is driven back up the drive to park at no cost somewhere above. There is also an endless stream of families carting wagon full of supplies, and now we know they are parking above also. I'm sure that removing the fire rings will not make a dent in the parking revenue. The responsible people who visit the beach and pay the tariff are then subject to the groups who care less by burning pallets with flames as high as 6 feet and more. And also each pallet contains over 80 nails, and they do not always end up in the fire ring itself. These groups ignore the time limit to leave the beach, and they are not just unsupervised teenagers, but gang members from as far away as Riverside. These people are contributing to the dangers of the fire rings, and their fire ring pallet parties will end when the fire rings are completely removed. I thank you so much.
Thank you. Before we have the next speaker, I think the Two girls here wanted to speak.
I'm sorry?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Sophia Coop, and I'm Vanessa Coop.
There you go.
We like the firings because we come with our Girl Scout troops, and most of the summertime to have fun at the firings by roasting marshmallows at night and hot dogs. We have fun at the beach, and we like the firings. We always love to go to the beach, and say we go swimming and we get cold. How can we warm up? And I've gone there with my Girl Scout troops, lots of people, and I've had a lot of fun. And I've been singing campfire songs for a really long time, and I don't think it's a good idea to remove the campfires. Nope.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming out this evening.
That's a tough act to follow.
Yes, it is.
Tough act to follow. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Marcia Young, and my mother just spoke before the two young girls. Her name is Charlotte Stevens, and she owns the property at 3014 Breakers Drive, which is just across the parking lot from the fire rings in question tonight. I'm speaking on behalf of her extended family tonight, myself and my daughter. The fire rings have negatively impacted my daughter's health and our family unit. My daughter's asthma flared up on each visit to the Breakers' house. I had already been informed by her doctor that wood smoke was the instigator of her asthma attacks. So you see, the fire rings not only adversely affected my daughter's health, but cut short our visits to the Breakers' house, thus robbing my daughter of precious time she could have spent with her grandmother. I would ask you to consider all the evidence against breathing wood smoke when making your decision tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Harold Parker. I live in Crone Del Mar. Mayor Gardner and council. You know, you are burdened by a lot of knowledge that we didn't have. When I was a teenager in the 50s, there was no information about how terrible cigarette smoking was. The biggest risk we thought was, oh, it'll stunt your growth. And in my case, it seems to have. But seriously, the deathly effects of tobacco smoke were not generally known. But now we're hearing about the dangerous effects of secondhand smoke. I stopped smoking 30 years ago, but for the last 12 years, I've been having a tussle with bladder cancer. Bladder cancer is almost exclusively caused by smoking tobacco. It is the 5th most frequent type of cancer, and it is the 5th leading cause of cancer deaths. It almost never goes away for good. I've had 5 return visits. My point in sharing my saga with you is to let you know that I think you have a responsibility to remove the fire rings on behalf of humanity. I believe it is your responsibility, not really a choice. It doesn't take long to look on the internet to see that smoke from wood and other things that are cooked up in the fire rings are far more toxic than tobacco smoke. Some folks want to keep the fire rings for the memories. And we started today talking about children with the trees. We've got these lovely young girls talking about memories. And I admit that can be a thing. But I'm hopeful that those memories are not saddened by cancer and deaths caused by the toxic smoke in those fire rings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Hi, Mayor Gardner, council members. My name's Karen James. I live in China Cove, and I'm a lot further than 350 feet away from the fire rings. But in the summertime and various other times of the year, the smoke drifts over, and in the summertime, we can't sleep with our windows open. So that's how far it does travel. I used to frequently walk along the beach in Big Corona, and I watched children dangerously teetering on the edge of the fire rings, and I knew that, there was embers below. And I'd cautioned my own children, never to walk over there, and now I'm cautioning my grandchildren never to go over there. As time goes on and we learn about the dangers, we are foolish if we don't heed them. For the sake of the general public and the sake of the beachgoers, I'm asking that the powers of be please remove the fire rings from our city. There are numerous studies and scientific studies, and the gentleman that talked about all the cigarettes, I wished I'd have come up with that. But when you were sensible enough to ban smoking 7 years ago, it really made a difference. I belong to the beach cleaning program in Newport Beach, and that's about all I used to pick up was cigarette butts. And so tonight I'm appealing to your common sense again. Why not eliminate the public danger, save the city from future liability? There are plenty of activities to enjoy on our beaches without burning them up. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council members. Thank you for your time. My name is Jill Bertea. I was raised in Corona del Mar, and I am saddened by the abuse this beautiful beach, meaning Big Corona, takes from the filth and the soot that ends up in the air, in the sand around the fire rings, and ends up in the water as well. We have learned some shocking facts about burning wood and how it contaminates the air. It also contaminates the sand. Have you walked on the sand at Big Corona and some around the fire rings? Your feet end up black, and that's not tar. That's the soot. I do not feel I have the right to subject my children to these harmful contaminants. Yes, there are fond memories, some for me as well, but sadly, the health and safety issues outweigh the benefits of the fire rings. We can all have a beautiful day at the beach without them. Most of the California coastlines does not have fire rings, and people still come to the beach. People enjoy the beach in many ways up and down the coast. And to touch on one more point of nostalgia, I remember being young and driving around in my mom's big car, playing on the ground of the car, not in a car seat. I would never not put my 5-year-old and a 3-year-old in a car seat. I remember riding my bike up and down Ocean Boulevard and feeling the air through my hair. I would never not let my children wear a helmet. So times change, we learn, we get educated. So thank you for your time, and please take all of these important safety precautions into consideration. Thank you.
Council members, thank you for your effort. Staff, getting late. Thanks for coming out. Well, I guess you guys got to go into everybody's house and get rid of our fireplaces, too.
Can we have your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, Bob Coop. Bob Coop, Holiday Road, resident of Newport Beach my whole life, mostly ocean side of the highway. Used the fire pits from the time I was a little kid till, well, there's my little girls up here, till current. Sounds like we need to get rid of fire pits, fireplaces, charcoal barbecues. Are we going to go to people's backyards next and say, hey, you can't burn that barbecue? Get the fireplace out of your living room. It's a public beach. It's there for public use and public enjoyment. There is nuisance that comes with living at the beach. I lived on 41st Street for a couple of decades. And, yep, lots of nuisance. You live at the beach, there's a lot of things you have to put up with. People arguing over the volleyball courts, fights at the basketball courts. The parks, go to the park down there on the peninsula, there's nobody that lives on the peninsula at the park. It's an attractive nuisance. It's part of living at the beach. If somebody doesn't like a fire pit, if it's creating too much smoke at the beach for them, well, how many miles of beach do we have in the city? 5, 10, 11, 12. I suspect there's a few other miles of beach where folks that can't go through the smoke screen can probably go visit. As far as parking goes, is it going to reduce traffic? I don't know. Where's anybody going to park anyway? What's the peninsula run at 100% full from June through September? There's no parking at the beach. It's full. I mean, you go home, you park. There's either a parking space in your garage or you're not going there. So I'd kind of like to see the fire pits continue. Maybe you can think of a reasonable solution. I thought I saw something around here about Duraflame logs make a lot less smoke. That'd be kind of nice to have like a red box that delivered Duraflame logs for the beach instead of movies. might be kind of nice. There's got to be some other alternative than just shutting it all down. We've already put in the giant lights that turn it into daytime at 10 o'clock, and we've got gates on the beaches, and it's awfully controlled compared to when I was a kid. But I hope they stay. I like them. Maybe we can find a way to continue using them that's a little more reasonable than taking them all out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable council members, honorable mayor, my name is Walter Havikhorst. Was raised in Newport Beach, went to CDM High School, went to USC, love this town. Recently spent several years in Hawaii addressing the council on both the county of Maui and also on the island of Oahu. And there they look at the beaches the way that we used to look at the beaches, and now I hear tonight that we're looking at it differently. In Hawaii, no one can touch the beach. They're state property. The state can't even touch them. In fact, no one even owns the beach. And so I urge you, with all the testimony tonight, to keep the fire rings. As I was raised here, I remember them quite dearly. I did hear a lot of testimony tonight, honorable council members, about different ways and different options from the staff of how to control them, and that includes Duraflame logs. One other thing I also remember from several years in Orange County is if you remove things, they'll find a way to create them. If you remove the fire rings, we'll have fires, we'll have other police, and the police here in Newport Beach are phenomenal, so I do commend them for that. But the police will have to address other issues on the beach, other types of crime, including fires that they create on their own. They'll continue to do it whether we control it or not. So I urge you to increase the penalties, the fines, maybe increase the type of crime it might be for doing things illegally past certain hours. And those are things within our county, within our code we can do. So I urge you to look at that. Also, one thing Bob Coop said, which is very important, is that if you remove the fire rings, then you're going to have to remove the fireplaces, the barbecues, and everything else. So at one point, we have to look at government and how much control the government should put on it. And we should motivate those not to do things that are bad for air quality. Look at the alternative options that were presented here tonight. And I urge you to not remove the fire rings and look at the alternative options before taking this drastic decision. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Hi, good evening. My name is Deborah Jeffs, and I'm a resident of Corona Del Mar, but I don't actually live down along the Corona. I live further up on Dahlia. I have a good friend, Barbara Peters, who has been very involved with her concerns with the fire rings. And she had planned to be here this evening to make comments, but unfortunately she has a sick son, and she had to leave town to take care of him. So she had asked if I would deliver her comments on her behalf, so that's what I am doing. Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, I'm Barbara Peters, and I live in Corona Del Mar. You've seen a wealth of studies from credible organizations and scientists on the health effects of wood smoke. You've already heard that wood smoke is associated with many of the same illnesses as tobacco smoke. It's only within the last 12 months that I became aware of this. As I look back, there were so many clues. For example, I knew smoke triggered asthma because my mother-in-law couldn't visit our home in her later years. The smoke from the rings trespasses into our home, setting off the smoke alarms during busy weekend nights, and she would have trouble breathing. It's sort of a home invasion. We could lock our doors and windows, but it still gets in. And then my next-door neighbor told me about her granddaughter, who had painful asthma attacks whenever she visited. We both noticed how the marine layer traps the smoke, and it lingers with all of its sickening smells and dirty ash and soot. I recall even joking about how the smell of lighter fluid and smoke will always remind my children of their youth, because those smells often overpower the smell of dinner cooking in the kitchen. I've since learned if we can smell it, it's causing damage and illness. Somehow it doesn't seem so nostalgic anymore. I started hearing about other neighbors with lung cancer, a few recently on our street alone. One of my neighbors, Todd, died from his cancer over the holidays. Shortly after, my mother-in-law died of respiratory distress. All the while, the tradition of burning lived on. We were deeply concerned to hear of the illness of our young neighbor who works for the Newport Beach Police Department. Justin's oncologist insisted he must be a smoker, yet he's never smoked in his life. My concerns grew when our friend on Larkspur mentioned 3 of his close neighbors who had recently been diagnosed with lung cancer. While I can't say why these people became ill, the evidence linking these types of illnesses to exposure to wood smoke is clear. There are too many studies to refute it. Our public beaches should be for everyone's use. Mary Peters was old, but she still loved being at the water's edge. Unfortunately, she would have risked a life-threatening consequence if she went to Big Corona on some days and most evenings. By removing the fire rings, you can make our public beaches accessible for all who want to enjoy them. Everyone should be able to come to the beach without fear for their health because of the toxic smoke barrier created by recreational burning. Please vote to direct staff to move this process forward to remove all 60 fire rings in Newport Beach. I love the fire rings, but I feel the same. You know, the health hazards, it's just not worth it, you know. It's more important. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Gardner and ladies and gentlemen of the council and staff. I grew up with a few fire rings as well, and they are. I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Kathy Hamilton. I do live in Corona Del Mar. I know who I was. Sorry. When I grew up, we did have a few fire rings, and yeah, they were fond memories. They were. But we didn't know then what we've learned in recent years about the dangers, even of clean, clear wood smoke. The question about the fireplaces in the homes, actually, the AQMD has put in place Rule 445, which the City of Newport Beach, along with many other cities, has put into effect as of November 2011. It states that there are no wood-burning fireplaces in homes or permanent wood-burning pits in backyards are permitted in the city for new or remodeled homes. Why? Because if you can smell the smoke, it's toxic. A lot of what I have here has been stated, so I do not want to be repetitive. I will say that that wood smoke is the most harmful in the particle range because it is less than 1 micron, which means it can get anywhere. It can get through your closed windows. It can get through your closed doors. It can get through the closed windows of your car if you're down on the beach. There's no discrimination about people living there or people don't. It's people who visit the beach, whoever they are. And they are exposing themselves to physical dangers. These very small 1 micron particulates, they remain airborne for 3 weeks. They can travel over a mile. They can get into, they carry bacteria, they carry toxic gases, they carry viruses, and they can eventually get into your bloodstream. According to the AQMD Deputy Director, Dr. Elaine Chang, and her Chief Air Quality Specialist, Dr. Michael Laybourne, they told me on the telephone, if you can smell it, it's toxic. They don't come to these things, any of these agencies. They've done a lot of research on this, and they are very outspoken about it, but they do not get involved in any of the political discussions. That's why they're not here. Last summer, a 14-year-old girl stepped on hot sand in Newport at a Newport Beach. It was not in a fire ring, and she got severe burns, where the night before people had dug a hole and built a bonfire and covered it with sand, where then unsuspecting beach visitors walked the next day and they got injured. They get injured. Please remember that toxic smoke can travel over a mile and it can remain in the air for 3 weeks. This is not a drastic decision. This has been going on for years and years. We just didn't know. Now we really do know, and there is an immense amount of research done by official agencies regarding this problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Laura Curtis, and I live at 422 Carnation. I live at the beach. I run my dog at the beach in the mornings. I play volleyball through a city class, and also Monday afternoons with friends who live in town. And I've just recently discovered the fire pits this summer. My daughter graduated from Newport Harbor Lutheran Preschool, and we threw a big beach party at the end of the year. 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds running around the beach with their families, celebrating, having a wonderful time. Into the summer, August, very safe. We had wandered down to the tide pools. We just had such a great evening. A couple months later, a couple of her preschool teachers left, and we threw a big celebratory goodbye party for her. I recently heard the fire rings might be leaving our town, and one of the things on my bucket list was to have my birthday party down at the fire pit, so I went this past Saturday just to ensure that I would actually be able to do this. I met someone from the city there reading the toxicity levels, talking to us, talking to my friends. Talked to many of my friends. They grew up here. They've lived here all their lives. I've only been lucky enough to live here 12 years, but they shared memories. They started going to the fire pits when they were 4. I mean, wonderful memories. I was at a friend's house tonight, and her son, who's about 16, said, you know, the fire pits are a landmark. They're part of who we are in CDM, and I can't believe you're even telling me that they might take them away. A lot of us in the city don't know this is going on. So it's just one of those things I felt I had to come down and speak on behalf of the fire rings. I feel kind of like the Lorax in the middle of the Onslers. The fire rings themselves, they're just a wonderful place, but I think personally as a resident here, playing volleyball here, I think under the current, how they're currently run, they are unsafe. I think they are dangerous. I've gone down with my daughter on Monday afternoon. I played at the volleyball net that's closest to the jetty, and my daughter and her friend, who's about 9, run around the fire pits. And we've gone, and there's still hot embers from the night before. And I think this is a significant problem. I also think the smoke. There is quite a bit of smoke when you're standing down at the fire pits, when you live nearby. Even in the morning when I'm with the dog, I can smell the smoke. I've got a couple ideas you'd asked of possibly residents coming up with ideas rather than just us complaining, rather than just becoming emotional. One of the things I'd like to see is a park ranger on site after dusk during the summer and on the weekends. It could be the same calendar schedule as the naturalist that's at Little Corona. Also, a police officer designated specifically to the fire pits, not just in that sector. So if they're called away, they don't get there till midnight. Someone that is there for the fire pits. People leave at 10, and the fire pits are sprayed down at that moment. So there are no more fires after 10:30. They're all washed down. They're all safe at that point. This will reduce the amount of smoke. In order to pay for this extra staff, I realize there's a cost that's going to be incurred having the park ranger there and also having the police designated to the fire pits. Reservation system. We do it like Reserve America as a campground. You get a number, you pay in advance, there are no refunds. You come down to the guard gate, you're given a flag that attaches onto the fire pit. Fire pits are numbered. You put your number in, I'm number 16. The park ranger comes by and there's no number. You are cited, you are fined. If there's trouble, you are arrested. I think we need better supervision of this as a city. We are responsible for the safety and well-being of these fire pits, and I don't think we've done a good job in the last few years, which is why we have the unruly behavior. I don't think just because people have come to our town and disrupted us that we all suffer because of that. I think we are responsible people. We can come up with better ways to burn than the wood that we're burning. We can come up with responsible solutions. If I opened a bar and I allowed underage drinking, word would get around, and I'd all of a sudden have a huge clientele of underage drinkers. But if I came in the next day and I said, look, no more underage drinking, we're having citations, we're having fines, we're being arrested, the underage drinking would stop immediately in the same way that the unruly behavior, the gang incidents, and what we're seeing, the fights that were mentioned in some of the emails and comments in the extensive report that Kathy Hamilton put together would stop very quickly if this was managed. I came down to speak on the fire pits. Most of my friends are just shocked that this is happening. I spoke to a woman today at work, and she said, you know, there's a train that goes by my house. I knew the train was there when I moved in. She goes, you think I can go to my city and tell them that there's toxic fumes coming off the exhaust, and maybe they'll shut the tracks down, because I really don't like the noise. I think we can do better than this, but I would like to see whatever decisions made, I would like to see a little bit more research-based evidence rather than just case studies that have been presented tonight and also in the emails. If there is such a danger, I completely agree that they should all be removed. But under current situation, we haven't studied them enough, and I would ask you as a resident to look into this further, to study this further, to understand. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
So my name is Suzanne Sandmeyer, and I live at 226 Jasmine. So I came down several weeks ago when the Parks Commission made their report and allowed citizens to discuss whether or not there should be fire pits down at the Corona Del Mar Beach. There was an interesting structure to the evening, and that is that about 19 residents, as we heard from the staff, got up and gave their opinions opposed to the fire rings, and then one commissioner argued in favor of the fire rings, and no citizens were allowed to respond. So I came down tonight with the idea that I would respond to some of the arguments in favor of the fire rings that were raised by the commissioner. Now, the general thrust of the public argument at the last meeting was that, well, if you can't build a new house and burn wood inside the house and you can't smoke a single cigarette on the beach, then probably there have been studies and probably it's not a good idea from the point of view of health to have open fire wood-burning pits on the beach. The commissioner came back and argued, number one, that it was very attractive to people to have the fire rings, and we've heard similar arguments tonight. But I just ask you, if you think about the advertisements that you've seen about beautiful tropical beaches where you would love to go, even maybe if you live in Newport Beach, how frequently do you see smoky fire pits down in the front of those white sand pictures? Not very often. So my point is that it's really attractive to have a beach that's really clean. It doesn't have to have fire pits and wood smoke in the front for it to be really attractive to people. The second point made by the commissioner was that money would be lost if we got rid of the fire rings. Well, what kind of money are we talking about? The money from parking. Well, as we've heard from several people this evening, you can't even stop a car down there because it's so filled up in the parking lot that you have to drop your stuff off and then go back up to the top of the street. So I live in that neighborhood, and I can assure you the parking lot will be full with or without the fire rings. So I was a little surprised the commissioner would raise that as lost revenue for the city. The second point, which is more amorphous, is that there would be commercial money lost because people wouldn't be coming in and buying food. And I would argue that only a small percentage of citizens that come in and buy food to picnic down on the beach all day long are the ones that are occupying the fire pits for a few hours at night. So I think those commercial aspects maybe could be outweighed by the health costs. So if you have surgery for lung cancer, perhaps our pulmonologist could back me up on this, it's about $200,000. Throat cancer, that's about $100,000. The AQMD tells us that there have been about 5,000 premature deaths in the South Basin area in the year period 1999 to 2000, about 180 premature asthma conditions, about 180 days lost from work. So I would ask that those kinds of values be factored into the commercial value of the fire pits on the beach. Of course, we're just one little aspect of that statistic, nonetheless. And then finally, he voiced some possibilities for alternative solutions, and the solution that he suggested was that there would be gas fire rings replacing the wood pits on the beach because that would be clean and they could be turned off and on. Now, I work in a laboratory, and I can tell you, even with trained personnel using gas Bunsen burners, which are tiny little things compared to a huge fire ring, it's dangerous to have gas. You have gas leaks. You have to be able to turn it off and on. If there are plumbing issues, you have an explosion. You don't have a leak. So and there was an architect on the commission who said that it would be impractical to install the fire rings replaced with gas and that it would be quite expensive. Now, tonight, we've also heard that we would lose the danger and excitement of life on the beach if we lost the fire rings. That's taking away from our enjoyment. But I assure you, anyone who's run out into the surf, you can still have plenty of excitement down there on the beach. And finally, we heard that ocean breezes are blowing the smoke away, but the way that onshore breezes work is during the day the ground heats up and the breeze comes in from the ocean at night when the fire pits are burning. Doesn't go out to the ocean. So I just am glad that we had a chance to respond to some of the issues that were raised several weeks ago where we didn't have a chance to respond. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Nancy French, and I live in Corona Del Mar, and I want to say she's right. I live inland above Oasis Senior Center, and we get the smoke at night. We get the ash. It all comes inland to us. So the beach may be great, but it's inland to us. Secondly, I want to just comment on, it'd be great if we could monitor and enforce Duraflame logs or another alternative, but who's going to do that and who's going to pay for it? And we've done a great job in this city, but we're not, as you may know, we don't have a bottomless pit of funds. There's a lot of things to do at the beach, as many people have said. It doesn't have to be fire-related. You can have a great time at the beach without burning. And lastly, there is a fiscal responsibility with potential lawsuits. And call Huntington Beach, or you guys know all about them. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Gardner and council members. This is an item I had not planned on speaking on tonight. My name is George Schroeder, and I'm a 25-year resident of Newport Beach. Every 2 weeks, you folks have to vote on issues before you, and oftentimes, to me, it seems like the vote is probably about a 95% yes and a 5% no. There's good arguments to be made on both sides, but sometimes there are better arguments on one side. To me, this is an issue that isn't a slam dunk. You know, I think there are good arguments on both sides, and we've heard those tonight, and there are some not so good arguments, and we've heard a few of those tonight also. And for me, this comes down to probably, if I had to vote like you will have to vote shortly on this, I think my vote would probably fall in a 55 to 45 vote. You know, so therefore I would have to vote on the 55% one way. The arguments I heard that I think stand up are that the fire rings and the smoke that comes from them are just too close to homes. The arguments that, well, we've had it like this for years. Well, we used to allow horses on the beach. Okay, a law was changed, an ordinance was changed, and there may have been a council room full of people who said, I can't believe you're going to take horses off the beach. We've always had that. Okay, we used to allow smoking on the beach. To me, it's more reasonable that a person can smoke on a public beach or in a public park or within 100 feet of a beach or 100 feet of a park. You know, but you pass that ordinance that says they cannot. Okay, this is the direction we're going. The people who want the fire rings, you know, the Girl Scouts and all that, there are fire rings at the Huntington Beach State Beach, okay? Huntington Beach, you know, they have them there. That's where my church groups always went. Those fire rings are not adjacent to homes. So I don't think the kids that want to use the fire rings are going to be precluded from using them. They'll just have to go to a place where they have less impact on people's lives. So anyways, I guess what I'm trying to say is I know it's going to be a difficult vote. And I think my 55% vote that I came to just after I heard the arguments were that I probably would vote for the health, safety, and liability reasons at this time. It's 2012. Everything does change. Probably time that the rings should go out. Thank you.
Thank you. How many more people are going to speak? All right.
My name is Warren James. I live in
I'm going to make a change then, because we are getting rather late, and we've heard a lot of this, and it's getting to be a little bit of repetition. So instead of 5 minutes, if it's all right, Reverend, we're going to cut it down to 3 minutes for your comments.
How about 1 minute?
1 minute we love.
Okay. My name is Warren James. I live in Corona Del Mar. You've heard a lot of dialogue about how toxic wood fires are, cigarettes and so forth. And it's poison. And I'm sure all of you on the city council made a commitment that you would protect the city and the residents, protect them. Since the air is going to be poisonous from a wood fire, please protect the residents, eliminate the fire rings. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hello. My name is Michael Rolfus. Thanks for being here tonight. I'm in favor of keeping the fire rings. I've lived here. I was born here, born in Hoag Hospital. And I've lived here. I'm 21 years old now. I go to Chapman University, so I haven't gone far. And, you know, I remember back in the day when I was meeting people around this neighborhood. You know, I was coming up in the world at 5 years old, and I went to the to those campfires, and there was a thing called Indian Guides back then. I don't know what they call it now. Probably don't use that name. It was kind of like Boy Scouts. And, I made some of my best friends next to those fires. I know them today, and I went to play soccer with them, played baseball. And a lot of my life was kind of founded around those fire pits. I go to the beach all the time. I've lived my summers there, always have. And I get the crowd situation, locals only, I'm totally into that. But, I think that everybody deserves to make memories there, and that's kind of like, I would be ashamed if I couldn't allow my kids to make the same memories that I had, and I won't have the opportunity if they get taken away. As far as health goes, I agree that there's so many fireplaces out there, I don't really see how that can make too much of a difference. There's thousands of fireplaces, there's 60 fire rings. And what a great place to have them on the beach rather than in the forest where that could actually cause a forest fire. I think in life you need to take risks to have a reward, and I think this is a risk that we should take. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
Good evening, Mayor Gardner, council members, and staff. My name is Roger McKinnon. I, too, went to Newport Harbor High School and enjoyed the fire rings. Unfortunately, I used to smoke cigarettes as well. But I think one of the testimonies earlier tonight that is a point I'd like to underscore, and that is that when we did that, we smoked cigarettes, we went down to the beach to have fun, roast weenies and all that stuff, we didn't have the information available to us that we have now. There's been an awful lot of studies that made a lot of changes. And I want to be, and I'm up here to be counted on the number of people that are against maintaining the fire rings. I'm against having the fire rings. I live probably, as a crow flies, probably 800 yards from the fire rings. John, is that about right? I live on Ocean Boulevard. I've lived there for in excess of 40 years, and as everyone has testified earlier tonight, it is very toxic. You can smell it. It's in your house, in your clothes. It's everywhere, and it's not. If you can smell it, like Kathy said, it's dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
Thank you, Council. My name is Roy Engelbrecht. I'm a PB&R commissioner, and I was one of the 3 no votes, but I'm here as a citizen tonight. The adage, you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, really applies to what we're talking about tonight, because we don't want to throw out the baby, the fire rings, but we want to address the bathwater and clean up that bathwater. If you were at the February PB&R meeting, you heard residents who came here to discuss the removal of the fire rings. They talked about the sky turning black, soot on furniture, soot on cars. They talked about the crowds at the public beach. But others mentioned the health issue, which to me is the most important issue and really the only reason that we should address this and the removal of the fire rings. I'm waited to be the last speaker, hopefully, so that you would have the correct facts. Keep in mind that most of the studies that were mentioned by the residents and the reports that we were given, and Laura did a great job of informing the PB&R Commission on this, dealt with wood-burning smoke in confined spaces like homes, buildings, really not outdoors. Wood-burning smoke emits particulates. They are the components that make up burning smoke, but 75% of PMs are reduced by nose and your upper respiratory system. In the other 25% of the PMs, which are called PM 2.5s, these very small particles that we address here that cause health, they don't really come from wood-burning smoke. They come from fossil fuel emission car exhaust. But I still wanted to address the health issue, which is the biggest concern to the residents and from the many letters received. So I thought, what's the best way to measure the air quality at our fire rings in Corona Del Mar, or measure the PMs, so that the council can make an accurate decision and have the right facts. So I contacted Geotech, the leading Orange County environmental monitoring equipment company. I asked them, do you have a piece of equipment that would monitor air quality from wood-burning smoke that allow me to get a reading of PMs at the fire rings, 150 feet from the fire rings, 300 feet from the fire rings, and 500 feet from the fire rings at Breakers Drive? So I rented an Eagle 2 sample draw gas monitor capable of detecting the presence of oxygen, hydrogen sulfide, carbon monoxide, methane, and VOC, which is volatile organic compounds, which is the burning of plastic and so forth in the air. Well, I went to the Big Corona over the last couple of weeks in the evening.
Are you almost?
And met that young lady right there and told her to come to our meeting.
Mr. Engelbrecht, are you almost through with your information?
Absolutely. Went to the firings. And what I found out is, yes, at the firings, a very high level of carbon monoxide and VO, right at the firings. But I moved 150 feet back. Still some, but less. 300 feet back, air quality was pristine. 500 feet back, our monitor read no detection of carbon monoxide. Now, I understand that these were taken in March, when we have the biggest use of the firings in the summer, so that has to come into your decision. Council, I have 5 options.
Please, very quickly.
Remove all 27 fire rings. Remove 12 fire rings and leave 15. Put this to a vote of the City Council. But I love what she said because she was reading my notes. Keep the fire rings in place. Make them a reservation system just like we do the fields. It would generate enough revenue to have a full-time fire ring ranger there every day during the summer to monitor that. It would have enough revenue to put an additional police officer so that at 10 o'clock those fires would be out.
All right.
Hire a monitoring company to come in the summer and monitor it, or throw it back to the PBNR with all these suggestions and come back to you.
Thank you very much. Now, hold on, please. How many more do we have? All right. Please, no, we are reaching the end of our ability to take in information, so new information is welcome.
I'm Dr. Jack Larson, live in Corona Del Mar. Mayor, Council, there's another kicker on this that has not been mentioned tonight, and that is burning embers. And tonight would be a night I should be home, because you know what's going on down there right now. We're having Persian New Year's, and believe me, they really do it. The issue of burning embers. I've had them on my deck and on my patio. Now, I like to be home on the 4th of July because I don't want bombs thrown on my roof and cause fires. And burning embers can do the same thing, as you will know. Also, this fact that measuring this time of year, this is not our inversion weather time of year. It's in the summertime when the winds are low and the overcast and everything else keeps the atmosphere down. And those times when we have that inversion layer, you can't have your slider open. It gets into the house. Health is a problem. Not, it's a big, major problem. And quite honestly, people with lung cancer have health problems. And we have a big issue of life and death in those cases. Thank you.
Thank you. How can I guarantee you'll be last?
I'll volunteer to be last. Good evening, Mayor and City Councilmen and women. My name is John Hamilton, and I will be brief. Compromise, in many ways, is great, but you can't be partially pregnant. You got to face it. We got to do it. We've got to remove these. It's just like cutting back on cigarettes. You're still smoking. We got to do it. You have a choice what you eat or what you drink, but you don't have a choice of what you breathe. And we don't have that. Memories are wonderful, but a memory of ill health is not wonderful. Lastly, I want to say this carefully. With all the overwhelming evidence supplied to you tonight by laboratories, they don't lie, the AQMD, all these people don't lie, government agencies and individuals, one thing is very clear and very compelling. No one, not an individual, not a government or any group, has the right to willingly and intentionally subject anyone, be it a resident or a visitor on the beach, to a situation or an environment that has been proven to be dangerous. Thank you.
Short enough?
Thank you, and you weren't the last.
My name's Mary Gannier, and I don't live right above Corona Del Mar Beach. I live quite a distance away, and during the summer, the prevailing wind comes right to my house and brings all that smoke. And my smoke detectors go off regularly. So you can't just say 500 feet. It affects residents much further than that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? There must be someone in this room who hasn't spoken.
There you go, Nancy. I'll be brief, about 10 seconds. I am the current chair of Parks, Beaches, and Recreation. I'm also one of the 4 votes to remove the fire rings in favor of the health and safety of our residents. I'm available for any questions as to how we all voted and any comments as to the alternatives that may or may not have been discussed. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to close it. Okay. I'm bringing it back to council. This has been very, very good. Thank you for your comments. They were all very thoughtful on both sides. I appreciate it. I'm sure the council does too. If we could have done it in half the time, we'd probably appreciate it more, but that's okay. Everybody had a passionately felt position. I would just say that as far as the historical aspect, this is part of the history of Newport, that depends on where you stand. Because when I was little, there were no fire rings. So it's not part of my history, and I was born here. So that part of it, a lot of it just depends on your age. That's always something. All right, bringing you back to council for comment or a motion. Oh, my goodness, we are just lagging tonight.
I just have a quick question. When were the fire rings installed on our beaches? Any idea?
We were able to track them back to 1960s.
Okay. I'm going to move the recommended action to remove the fire rings.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion of the motion? Please vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you for all coming. Thank you for sitting through all of it. It was good to hear you. I think it helped us all. So thank you. A motion for reconsideration.
A motion to reconsider the vote on any action taken by the council at either this meeting or the meeting
Can you
prior.
please leave quietly? Thank you.
May be made only by one of the council members who voted with the prevailing side.
Is there a motion for reconsideration? Then we are adjourned.